You're listening to Swadhinota, the Bengal Revolution. This program is a historical account to honor those who fought for India's freedom. Episode 4. Khudiram Bose, a 19-year-old revolutionary from Midnapore, and his sidekick, Prafulla Chaki from Bogra, attempted to assassinate Kingsford, a notorious magistrate, by hurling a bomb at his carriage in Muzaffarpur. However, they mistakenly targeted the wrong vehicle, and the bomb struck Mrs. Kennedy and her daughter instead. Khudiram was captured, tried and ultimately hanged, while Prafulla Chaki chose to end his own life by turning his gun on himself. The efforts and training of the revolutionaries began to yield results. The actions of Khudiram and Prafulla ignited a sense of awakening across a nation that was increasingly seeking alternative measures to overthrow foreign domination.
In their pursuit to uncover the source of bomb-making activities, the police arrested Aurobindo Ghosh, Baron Ghosh, Ulash Kordoto, and 34 others from various parts of Calcutta.
The revolutionaries begin to cause public disturbances. One day, an officer approaches Aurobindo.
Aurobindo, sleeping at his home in Calcutta at night, heard a knock on the door.
The officer handcuffs Aurobindo.
I understand you passed the ICS examination. Aren't you ashamed to sleep on the floor?
This is my land. Why should I be ashamed if I lie on her lap?
We will arrest you on the suspicion that you are connected to the bombing at Muzaffarpur.
Barrister.
C.R. Das reads about the arrest in the newspaper at his home law library. Krishna Kumar Mitra enters, and they exchange greetings. Then Mitra shares the news.
The leader of the revolution, Aurobindo Ghosh, has been arrested on the charges of sedition and overthrowing the government. No defense lawyer competent enough is coming forward. I request you to take his case and defend him.
Little did Mitra know, C.R. Das was well aware. He nods his approval to take the case. Aurobindo possessed the Gita and many other books and magazines of religion. He recites,
Either slain you will go to heaven, or victorious you will enjoy the earth. Therefore arise, O Arjuna, resolved on the battle.
Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamnaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge.
Whenever there is rise of unrighteous and evil, the champion of the good arises to challenge the reign of the evil. He delivers the pious men and destroys the wicked souls and reestablishes the reign of the righteousness.
Nirmano moha dita sangha dosha uddhatma nitya vinivritta kama danduir vimukta sukha dukkha sangai gachanti amudha padamabhayam tat. Those who are freed from the pride and delusion, those who have conquered attachment, who, all desires stilled, worship the Supreme Spirit, who are liberated from the dualities known as pleasure and pain, and are not deluded.
all 37 were convicted in the bomb case at the Alipur court. Aurobindo had spiritual visions while he was in the jail and experienced peace and tranquility descending on him. The calm indifference of the revolutionaries, who were brought daily from the prison to the courtroom during the prolonged trial, excited the admiration even of those who did not share their views. With the Damocles sword hanging over their heads, they chatted among themselves and laughed and cracked jokes as if nothing had happened. One day, when the prisoners were assembled in the courtroom sometime before the judge was due, one of them began to sing a patriotic song composed by Rabindranath Tagore.
সার্থক জন্ম আমার জন্মেছি এই দেশে সার্থক জন্ম মাগো সার্থক জন্ম মাগো তোমায় ভালোবেসে সার্থক জন্ম আমার।
It is said that a pin drop silence filled the room as the song was sung in a hauntingly melodious tune, carrying a deep sense of pathos, as though it came from someone who knew his time was nearing its end in service of his motherland. The lawyers, visitors, and even the staff who had gathered in the room listened with rapt attention, tears streaming down their faces. No one dared to interrupt the young man, almost a boy, as he poured out the deepest thoughts and desires of his heart through his soulful melody.
Before taking his seat in the court, Judge Beachcroft passed a flicker of a smile towards Aurobindo, standing at the witness stand.
On behalf of the government, Prosecutor Mr. Norton was bringing charges that you, on or about the 12 months preceding May 15th, 1908, at various places in Bengal, including 32 Murarapur Road, Manaktola, of waging war against His Majesty the King Emperor of India, conspiring to deprive His Majesty the King Emperor of India of the sovereignty of British India or a part thereof, to overhaul by criminal force the government of India or the local government of India, and thereby committed an offence punishable under Section 121 of the Indian Penal Code, and within the cognizance of the Court of Sessions.
Barrister C.R. Das gave a counter-argument, claiming that all the accused are innocent. They have had no records of violence or conspiracy before. For Aurobindo Ghosh, he appealed.
My appeal to you, therefore, is that a man like this who is being charged with the offences imputed to him stands not only before the bar in this court, but stands before the bar of the High Court of History, and my appeal to you is this: that long after this controversy is hushed in silence, long after this turmoil, this agitation ceases, long after he is dead and gone, he will be looked upon as the poet of patriotism, as the prophet of nationalism, and the lover of humanity. Long after he is dead and gone, his words will be echoed and re-echoed not only in India but across distant seas and lands. Therefore, I say that the man in his position is not only standing before the bar of this court, but before the bar of the High Court of History. The time has come for you, sir, to consider your judgment, and for you, gentlemen, to consider your verdict.
For 8 days, C.R. Das pleaded for the defendants. The judge sentenced Barin Ghosh and Ulaskar Datta to death, later commuted to life sentence. He sentenced 10 others to life imprisonment, and 3 defendants to jail terms of 10 years. Another 3 defendants for 7 years, and 1 defendant for a year. He set Aurobindo Ghosh and others free, remarking this to Aurobindo, the most important accused.
I now come to the case of Aurobindo Ghosh, the most important accused in the case. He is the accused whom, more than any other, the prosecution are anxious to have convicted, and but for his presence in the dock, there is no doubt that the case would have been finished long ago. It is partly for that reason that I have left his case till last of all, and partly because the case against him depends to a very great extent, in fact almost entirely, upon association with other accused persons. The point is whether his writings and speeches, which in themselves seem to advocate nothing more than the regeneration of his country, taken with the facts proved against him in this case, are sufficient to show that he was a member of the conspiracy, and taking all the evidence together, I am of opinion that it falls short of such proof as would justify me in finding him guilty of so serious a charge.
In a highly unexpected acquittal of Aurobindo, the British rulers were far from pleased, to say the least. They speculated that Judge Beachcroft, who had been Aurobindo's classmate
in Cambridge University,
might have influenced the verdict, leading them to deem the acquittal as extrajudicial. Determined to retry him, the British authorities sought to bring Aurobindo back to court. Aware of their intentions, Aurobindo fled to Chandannagar, a French territory in Bengal at the time, before eventually finding a permanent location to establish his ashram. In Chandannagar, the revolutionary leader Motilal Roy provided refuge to Aurobindo, hiding him for a month in a storage area within his garden. Motilal personally attended to Aurobindo's needs, and no one else was allowed to enter that part of the garden. One day, however, Motilal's wife accidentally entered the cottage where Aurobindo was staying. Upon seeing a man who was not her husband, she instinctively stuck her tongue out slightly, a customary gesture in response to an act considered socially improper. Realizing her unintended breach of decorum, she immediately left the room. Aurobindo, seeing Motilal later, chimed,
You know what? I have seen Mother Kali today.
Motilal told others about Aurobindo's experience the same day, saying, Look at this man. He is an embodiment of purity and simplicity. Motilal then purchased 2 tickets to Pondicherry, using the pseudonyms of employees from a tea estate who subscribed to revolutionary magazines. He arranged for Aurobindo to travel to Pondicherry with an attendant, ensuring his safe departure. Aurobindo, having undergone, enveloped him. He had intended to bring his wife, Mrinalini Devi, to Pondicherry, but she passed away from an illness before this could happen. Mrinalini had lived a life of devotion and purity, often dressing as a yogi and performing daily worship. She fulfilled her role as an ideal wife with utmost grace and virtue. In a gesture of selflessness, she donated all her ornaments to the poor, and with Shri Aurobindo's approval, established a scholarship in Sister Nivedita's memory at a school. Mrinalini belonged to eternity, her spirit transcending the bounds of time.
Aurobindo, as a result of sea change and spiritual transformation while he was in the jail, experienced peace and tranquility descending on him. Mrinalini Devi, who was left behind, spent her days in spiritual uplift, visiting Mother Sarada for company and counsel. It was as if Vishnu Priya was abandoned by Lord Gauranga some 400 years before. But Mrinalini Devi was far from being abandoned. Aurobindo meant to bring his wife Mrinalini Devi to Pondicherry, but she died from an illness before it could happen.
Shri Aurobindo never remarried. He dedicated the remaining 40 years of his life to yoga, meditation, and the creation of an extraordinary body of philosophical work, spanning 37 volumes. These works now grace the bookshelves of the finest colleges and universities worldwide. India gained independence on Aurobindo's birthday, August 15th, 1947. In recognition of his immense contribution, Rabindranath Tagore honored him with a 2-page poem, hailing him as the Muse Incarnate of India's soul.